and it doesn't include you. The Uniparty told you that the system was broken. They lied. The system is working exactly like how the Swamp Uniparty designed it, to strip you of your wealth, your history, and your future. My name is Tyler Dykes. I'm a Marine, a business owner, and the one thing that the DC Swamp is terrified of: a candidate they cannot buy and that they cannot control. My opponents, they're consultants, they're lobbyists, they're the Uniparty in cheap suits who are selling out your family's future in order to earn their next promotion. Meanwhile, low-country families are suffering from the rising cost of living, and military veterans can't even get the care they need that they've already earned. These other candidates, they didn't sacrifice for this country. I lost everything. They stripped me of my career, they tried to silence my voice, and they tried to break my family. But they forgot one thing. You don't break a Marine, you make us harder. We aren't fighting a Republican or a Democrat. We're fighting a regime that treats the American taxpayer like a piggy bank for foreign wars and servant to global interests. I'm not asking for your permission to represent you. I'm asking for you to join me in taking back what is rightfully ours, to secure our border, to remove foreign influence, to protect our low-country military families, and to put South Carolina first. I'm Tyler Dykes, and I'm the only one in this race who isn't looking for a seat at their table. I'm looking to burn the table down. So let's do this.
All right, Tyler Dykes. Boy, do I love that. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
I am fantastic, Rob. How are yourself?
I'm absolutely, I'm a little miserable today, but I'm very excited to see you. When I was watching your videos, I thought, man, I relate to everything that you're saying. I'm not a Marine, but I was at January 6th. I got to watch that go down. And I got to ask you, before we get into everything else, what was it like? I've talked to a couple people that were there on January 6th. They got arrested. But how did this come about for you? Did you get inside the Capitol? Were you breaking things? Were you beating people up? Were you bouncing fire hydrants off police officers' heads? What did you do for them to arrest you on January 6th?
Well, if you read the media articles, you'd think I was a mass murderer. That's what you would think. Neo-Nazi domestic terrorist tears down the White House. But no, none of that happened. I pretty much just walked inside was the extent. I did go inside. There was an incident where one of the cops took their riot shield, smashed it down onto somebody's head. Everyone reached in, grabbed it out of his hands. They let go. I picked it up, never even touched an officer. And for that crime, for not even touching the riot shield while the cop had it, they charged me with a 30-year charge of robbery with a deadly weapon, where the shield was both the deadly weapon and the thing that was robbed. And so that's what they got me for. And then to sort of pressure me to plead down to a lesser charge, which of course I did, with the expectation of being able to get a pardon, which I did. So that is the short version of how I eventually ended up getting arrested.
I was there with you, and I theoretically I could have been in the same situation as you. If you remember, it was cold that day. Yeah. And we started walking there. We were trying to get some food, and I was freezing. My feet were frozen. We've been out there since 6 o'clock in the morning. So I made a detour to the hotel, and by the time I got to the hotel, I turned on the television, and all hell was breaking loose that day, and it was crazy. I guess the other question for you, because we were worried about it. You know, the people that I went there were like, "Are they going to pick us up?" And we never went in. We were outside just watching the festivities, if you will. And I thought, what? We were all nervous that we were going to get a knock on our door at some point because of the geofencing. They're like, you're there, that kind of thing. I was outspoken about it. I was doing a podcast at the time. Did the FBI just knock on your door one day? Do they come get you at work? How does this all play out? How do they arrest you, and where does it go from there?
Sure. So when they arrested me, I was actually already trying to deal with another issue where I was arrested for going to a rally and holding a tiki torch. And so when they arrested me for that, for protesting against the removal of Confederate statues, they had indicated and promised me that they sort of knew that I was at J6, but if I pled guilty to this charge, they wouldn't go after me for J6. And so on my release date from that, thinking it was all behind me, 2 FBI agents came into the jail where I was being held and arrested me for January 6th right in there, inside the jail, after they just promised me they essentially would not do that. So I don't know if anyone's listening at home, folks. Don't trust the cops or the prosecutions when they tell you something. They're going to be lying every time.
We got a story. We got a story that we just Tuesday. We had a conversation with a guy who was shot twice in the chest, twice in the forehead. And he is in prison for trying to shoot the cops, which he videotaped. You can watch the fact that it didn't happen. This guy's been in prison for 13 years. It was a spy camera on his wrist. So they didn't know that that was a spy camera. So when they got it, they proved that everything that the cop said was not true. And he's still in prison to this day, 13 years later. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. So when you say don't trust everybody involved in politics and in the policing system, sometimes you got to be very careful of what goes down. So you were in, how long were you in prison, and what was prison life like? We used to hear Laura Logan do are they singing the national anthem? I was at one of their events where people were singing the national anthem from inside the prison. What was treatment like, and how long were you in there?
I ended up doing a 1.5 years of the ankle monitor, and then I went inside and I spent 5 months in federal prison. Way up in Fort Dix, New Jersey, 500 plus miles away, which is illegal. They broke the law when they shipped me that far from home. And but honestly, the prison was not as bad as I was expecting, and it was worse in some ways than I was expecting. Right. And so the main issue for me actually was the fact that it's impossible to get a full night's sleep in prison. Absolutely impossible. You have the guards coming in every few hours, hitting the door and being loud as they come in. You have sort of the paranoia as you're checking your six and your corners to make sure you're not about to get jumped or something like that. And then on top of that, you have the fact that you're in prison, and a lot of the people manage to smuggle drugs into the prison. And so they're staying up all hours of the night, yelling and screaming and running around. And even if it's just in their cells, they're still banging on it and being loud. So it was a very, very difficult experience, a lot in that way. But I also have a lot of advantages, right? I'm 6'6", military, combat trained, 240 pounds. Nobody messed with me, right? Nobody
I love it. Good point. You're a little too big to be messing with. I got it.
Yeah.
A lot of times, when you're around alpha males, they like to take the biggest guy in the crowd and take a shot at him. That happens as well. But I hear where you're coming from, man. I apologize that it happened to you. I just think, I love this country. And when I see these things happen, it really is deflating, because when you're talking about the Confederate statutes, nobody even really understands what happened even with the Confederate Army. And, the guy that was leading the Confederate Army was against slavery. Nobody really even understands our history, because they've so rearranged it that nobody even knows what's going on. And you say, I don't want these Confederates. It's a part of our history. I don't want these torn down. They turn you into a neo-Nazi and a crazy person, and you're a racist and everything else. And it's just a lack of history and understanding of history is where our society, unfortunately, a lot of people don't know what's really going on. Now let's get into your campaign. So you're a former Marine, you're a business owner. What drove you into running for this particular, because you're going to run in Nancy Mace's vacated spot, correct?
That's right. She's running for governor, so the seat is wide open.
So the seat is wide open. Are you the odds-on favorite? Is Lindsey Graham endorsing you? Because of that, I'm going to have to pull out if Lindsey Graham is endorsing you.
No, I've got his endorsement along with every lobby. No, he's not endorsing me.
So and when you make the decision, are you making the decision because of what happened on January 6th? You see the country going off the rails, and you're like, I can make a difference. I'm going to throw my name in the hat. Is that kind of how it all played out, or was there some event other than what I'm hearing from you that shaped your opinion?
Well, I think I need to go back a few more years and talk about what really got me into politics to begin with, because I was like completely out of the whole political ideals. I was very much so used to be the socially liberal, fiscal conservative type growing up and in high school. I come from a pretty well-off upper middle class family that grew up in a 98% white community in the South. So I was very sheltered, very sort of, I guess, privileged is what a liberal would say. And so I had really no idea about anything that was political in the world, but I was smart. And so I got a full scholarship to Chapel Hill to go abroad for a gap year program. It's UNC Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And when I went to that program, a prerequisite before they sent you overseas is you had to basically indoctrinate yourself into hating yourself. And so here I was coming in with no experience, no idea about anything political. This is before DEI really took a hold everywhere, before critical race theory. And I had to go through this checklist where I had to describe why I was evil for being white, why I was evil for being male, why I was evil for being straight, why I was evil for not being poor. And I'm just like, again and again, they're trying to get me to hate myself for existing. And every single success that I had, they said, was because of those qualities, not the hard work, not the dedication that I had, not the help even from my parents. It was because of the way I was born. That's where I got to where I was. And so I hated that. I decided not to go there. I ended up going to Cornell University instead, but I took that gap year overseas, and I did it on my own. And when I went abroad, when I went to Spain, to Germany, to England, did 4 months in Spain, and then traveled around Europe for a bit, and then 4 months in Romania, I saw the exact same problems in every single country.
Exactly.
I saw the southern part of Spain. I speak Spanish, and I couldn't understand a word people were saying because they were all speaking Arabic. I went to London for a few days. Not only is it outrageously expensive, but I was the only person that spoke English practically that I met, aside from a couple of Australians that I met. I went over to Dublin, and instead of Irish pubs, it was full of Turkish kebab shops. And then I went to Berlin, and the hostel tour guide literally highlighted entire streets that you couldn't go on because the Muslims had no-go zones, where you couldn't even walk down the road because you get attacked because I was not Muslim, and I am not Muslim. And so as I went throughout Europe, I became to just rage. Why are these people here? Why are they flooding in? Why are there all these foreigners when I'm seeing these monuments, the Brandenburg Gates and all these different things, and I can't even get close because of all the people that are there? Then I end up in Romania, and it is beautiful. It's a very poor country, but it's traditional. They have a very strong dedication to their culture, to their heritage, to their faith, and they don't apologize for it. And that's when I realized we needed to be more like that and not like the rest of Western Europe that is just drowning itself in foreigners. So then I get back home.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you. I get back home and I go to school. And then this is really where all of it's really picking up. You got the DEIs really pushed in. And then I go to Cornell, and they're really pushing the same idea. And that's really what started my initial drive into politics, was realizing they are intentionally flooding our countries all over the world with people specifically to destroy our culture.
Boy, I could not agree more. And what do you think it is? Do you think that this is why we have these proxy wars all over the Middle East? Because I always say we go in and we invade countries, whether you think they're righteous or not. It's not. I won't argue with that, or even have the debate with you today. If I don't know which side of the fence you're on, don't want to get there. But we go into these countries, and then they are escaping the bombing like anybody would do. I always say, if they start bombing Lake St. Louis, Missouri, I'm getting out of here. I'm not going to stick around and hang out for the bomb. I'm getting out of here. So these Muslims, they start to migrate all over the world, and then you have some that are very nice and some of them very kind, but some of them are very radical because they now hate the Western world because you're bombing their societies. But they ended up all over Europe, all over the United States. It has to be planned, doesn't it have to be orchestrated? Nobody would start a war with people and then invite them into your country and leave your borders wide open. It doesn't even make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense, and it's absolutely orchestrated. I met a lot of people from the Middle East while I was in Europe. And, I met people from Palestine, from Egypt, from Syria. And, I was never friends with them. I didn't talk with them for long. But time and time again, they would say that a very specific small country in the Middle East and America were destroying their homes, were ruining a lot of the things they were trying to do back home. And then they would get invited by all of these NGOs, by all these big companies, the Open Borders Foundation, the Hebrew Immigration Society, all these different organizations would invite them in to go and immigrate. And, it's like when you're playing chess, every single move you do, if you're a good player, and I'm okay, every single move you do has to have like 2 or 3 different purposes for it to be a good move, right? You got to develop the piece, threaten a square, be in a good position. It's the exact same thing in real life. And so what I think is happening is there are a lot of these wars going on where they want to destabilize key countries so that certain people can expand their influence.
Yes.
But while they're doing that, if they can also destabilize our countries back home, that's like a 2-for-1 special. And so I think that a lot of that is happening right now.
Well, same exact brain. I didn't even know you felt that way, but that's exactly how I see it. So that little country that you're talking about, are you taking money from APAC? Because my audience is going to want to know. I've been very anti I think this flooding of money into Congress is something right there. You go right on the screen. We talk about it all the time. I'm not anti-Semitic. I don't know how you feel about the Jewish people. I'm not anti-Semitic. In fact, it's ridiculous to tag me with that label. But every time I say there's an undue influence coming from the Middle East and coming from Israel in particular on our government, we should explore that. We should have a conversation about it. What is happening here? Boy, they come after me pitchforks and get very upset with me, a certain group of people. Are you taking money from AIPAC? Do you see this as a problem that we have going on? And how would you solve it? Because it doesn't seem like there's many people that are on our wavelength, if you will.
I would say there are quite a few more people coming on to our wavelength. And of course, to fully clarify, I am taking $5 million from AIPAC. No, I am taking $0 from AIPAC or any other foreign lobby. I've taken zero money from any corporate PACs or anything like that as well. So I don't take any of their money. And if you want to give me money, that's great, but I am not going to change my values whatsoever. And I will never accept money from the Israel lobby.
Has it been hard to get money? Because again, when I see the establishment, and we talk about politics every day, so I'm starting to see how trends develop. If you want to get into the establishment and you want to cozy up to the establishment, somehow, some way, money funnels to you. If you want to challenge the establishment, if you want to say, listen, I'm not buying into what you're selling. When you talk about the uniparty, I'm right there with you. When you challenge it, my good friend Jeffrey Wilson, he says all the time, he goes, Rob, the truth is severely underfunded. And we see that. We see when we challenge it, they come after us. They try to destroy you. They wreck your reputation. They start whisper campaigns. They tag you with the anti-Semite, racist, xenophobic, all these different things. And I don't necessarily care, but I know that it does influence the thinking of people that I wish were getting on the same page with me and you, because I think you see it very clearly as I do. How's it been for you? I mean, what's been your experience?
Yeah, it's been very interesting getting donations. I've purchased and got a lot of different donor lists, the donor lists for people all over South Carolina that have donated to Republicans before. And it's been very interesting. I get a lot of people that really love what I have to say about all of it. And they want to donate, a lot of them, but a lot of them just don't have as much free funds. But they'll donate, $20, $50, $100 here. But the big donors, the ones that give thousands and thousands of dollars to campaigns, almost universally, these people refuse almost to even talk to me. Like, if they're positive on the phone, they really like what I have to say. Then they get home and research and they're like, oh no, you were at January 6th. You're a terrorist and a traitor to our nation. They tell me these things, these big donors, just for January 6th, not even talking about foreign influence. And so it's a bigger problem with the donor class than the average person. I've actually had a lot of success reaching out to the average person, to talking to people about what's going on. My district, the area here in Bluffton, Hilton Head, Charleston, Beaufort, Mount Pleasant, this whole area is like almost exclusively boomer, with the exception of the college areas of Charleston. It is almost exclusively older retiree, where like if you're 60, you're young in these communities.
Yep, I know it. I'll golf down there.
And but even so, I get up on stage at these primary debates. I get up there and I say the truth about how we are being unduly influenced by Israel, about how all these different PACs are trying to take over our country and have been doing it for quite a while. And I actually get a lot of support. I have people coming up to me afterwards saying they loved what I had to say. I have people saying they want to help me campaign. They volunteer for me. And so there's like two very separate groups of people. You have the typical donors and you have the typical person. And with the typical person, I am doing phenomenally with getting like $20, $10, $30 here. With the big time donor, not even close.
Boy, it's that way all over the country. It really is. No. It's that way all over the country. When you say uniparty, as soon as I was listening to all of your clips over the last few days, and I heard you mention uniparty, we talk about it all the time. I said, the reason you can tell is, just through outcomes. If you watch the way the government works, it has to be a uniparty, because if you were really fighting for policies from the right or conservative ideology, or even liberal for that matter, if you were really fighting for these things, somebody would get the government. They'd have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, which we have now, if you're on the right. And things would change dramatically right away, because you would say, well, boy, those leftist people that we raise all the money because they're so crazy. Now we have the apparatus. We're going to go fix this thing, and we're going to make life better for everybody. We're going to clean up our streets. We're going to do all kinds of different economic policies that would help the middle class. It never really happens. It never, ever happens. If they give you a tax cut, inflation goes up, right? There's always, they give you one good thing that you can hang your hat on, but then there's three bad things right behind it. And that tells me that this is more of a puppet government where their big money kind of controls the day, and there's many different, the insurance lobby, there's the pharma lobby, there's the APAC, there's all these different big money lobbies. Is that the way you see the uniparty working? It's really just corporate money. It's just really big money comes in. They get these people into positions of power. They kind of own them because they got them into office, and then they kind of control from behind the scenes how these people are going to vote. Is that what you mean by uniparty?
There's a lot of that, but it's also just the fact the entire system coerces people to work with it. And if you are not explicitly anti-system, if you are not explicitly at war with them, they find a way to co-opt you and to drag you in and graft you into their little tree, right? Like there are people that I know in the South Carolina State House, for example, that basically they're people that agree with me. They agree with the things that I have to say, but they can't really say it. They have to keep their position. They have to be able to be invited to the parties. They have to be able to be in the places of influence so they can continue running for re-election, exactly what you said. And so because of that, they don't rock the boat. They're afraid to rock the boat. They're afraid to step out and go against who really holds the power. And so it's exactly what you said. A lot of it's the big money, but also a lot of it is just the way that the rules and the regulations are. Like in the federal house, for example, in order to get onto a committee, which is where you make all of the laws, you actually have to fundraise money for the Republican Party, a minimum of $100,000. And if you don't fundraise that money and basically give it to the GOP, you won't get on a committee assignment. And if you're not in committee assignment, you can't even begin to make laws. You can't get anything done. And so in order to fundraise that money, it is almost exclusively through these big donors, these big institutional donors. And so these big guys are essentially purchasing these seats in these committees in order to get them done. And these committee assignments are also largely chosen by the Speaker of the House, which of course is, Mike Johnson. And these decisions that he makes are also very, very, very highly influenced by the whole country's party, like all of the leadership of the party, who again are funded by lobbyists and all these different groups of people. And so it's like a combination of the money, it's a combination of what's required to get in. But I think that the biggest thing stopping people is fear. They're afraid largely of getting the treatment that I got. They're afraid of getting crushed. They're afraid of losing their homes, their finances. They're afraid of their reputations being destroyed. And let me tell you, no one's prepared for that. No one is prepared to lose $1 million business the way that I did. No one is prepared to have their careers smeared and to have their friendships attacked. There's someone that I knew that, like, his brother-in-law of someone I knew was investigated by the feds because maybe I had contact with him when I never did. Like, that is the level of involvement they will go through every single ring of your life if you get into this sort of realm of anti-system politics. And so most people are just afraid to even take the risk. But we only need a couple of people to get in Congress who are willing to fight back. You'd only need about 5 good people in Congress to change who the House Speaker is, to put pressure in. You'd only need 8 or 9 to be able to regularly get discharge petitions like Massey did with the Epstein files. You don't really need more than like 15 to 20 people to just dominate every aspect of politics if you are a unified bloc fighting the system together, refusing to compromise. And that is exactly something that I hope to bring to the table. I would like to be one of those people in Congress.
Yeah, you need disruptors. That's what you need.
Yeah.
You need people who are willing to go there and fight. I mean, you look, and there's a lot of power you're fighting, so it's never easy. People think they're going to go there and they've got this certain kind of personality. You got to be somebody who is ready to fight from day one, and you got to challenge everybody, and you can't be afraid, and you can't be influenced, which is apparently very difficult to do. How did your family and friends and coworkers take you from when January 6th, you get out of prison, you're coming back home? Did you lose a lot of friendships? Did people say, "Oh, you're this terrible person"? Did family start to escape from you? What was life like when you got out of prison? I'm just curious what shaped your worldview.
Thankfully, God bless my parents. While they don't agree with everything that I believe in, they have always supported me from day one. I have a very loving girlfriend who I plan to propose to should all this stuff, once it's all sort of finalized and I have enough extra money for a good quality ring. She stayed with me through this whole experience, through years in prison, all of it. And I had maybe one or two friends that I had out of the 10 or 15 that I had before stick with me all the way through. And it was just devastating because it wasn't even that they didn't like me. It wasn't that they didn't support me. It wasn't that they didn't want to be around me. They were terrified that they were going to get investigated, that the feds would find something to throw at them. And so even though they liked me, even though some of them might have even agreed with me or agreed with all the decisions that I've made, they took a step back and refused contact. They refused to get involved, refused to help. And the same thing with a lot of neighbors as well, people that I know. And so, again, it's just fear. Fear drove a lot of people away. And so I thank God every day for the family and few friends I had that did stick around.
Tyler Burks, I'll tell you this. If you win, watch how they come back to you. You become a U.S. congressperson, you watch how those people start to come back to you. You just watch what I'm telling you. This is how it works. When you're down and you need people, I've been through this a couple times in life. I'm a little older than you. When you're down and you need people, you find out who your friends are. It's really God-given, right? Because you find out who really cares about you and has respect for you. When you're down, you need them. And when you're up, they come to you. It's the craziest thing in the world. Give me a little bit about your platform. So I'm sure there are certain issues that are important to you. Can you kind of list off your priorities, things that you're running for, things that you'd like to accomplish?
Absolutely. We got a lot of issues going on in this country, but I think there's like 3 or 4 really big ones, especially for my generation, right? So I'm 28. I'm like the oldest end of Gen Z. And the biggest issues for us are mass immigration, right? You have the flood of people coming in. And because of it, you can't get jobs. You can't get promoted. H-1Bs are stealing all of like the tech jobs. You've got all of these illegals from South America taking a lot of the menial labor jobs. So that's a really big issue is mass immigration. 2 is affordability. Everything is getting more expensive. Inflation is driving up the prices. You have competition for everything. Like in Charleston, I knew a couple of people in the College of Charleston, and they had 5 people in a singular like apartment. It was a 4-bedroom apartment. They had 5 people. All 5 of them, each individually, had to pay $1,000 a month in rent. And this was not an elite house. This was like borderline in the ghetto, and they're having to spend $5,000 a month collectively to rent this place. That's insane. That is ridiculous, and we need to take steps to deal with that. And then, of course, you have the roots of a lot of these problems, which is that all of our politicians have sold out, and so they don't actually want to fix the issues. It would be very easy to, if you just, the Republican Party controls both the House and Senate. It would be very easy to just pass a law ending a lot of these work visas, to pass a law granting enforcement of the border and actually carrying out deportations. And a lot of this just isn't happening. And so we have foreign influence, we have affordability, and mass immigration. Those are what I would say are like the 3 main issues that I want to tackle in Congress.
I got to ask you just a question because it's a big deal for me. When I watched the election process in 2020, it made a mark on my soul. I said, you know what? It's very interesting that this country waves the flag. We talk about freedom and liberty, and now our elections appear to me to be manipulated. What is the election system in South Carolina? In Missouri, it's supposed to be a paper ballot, and then there are rules that come along with a paper ballot. They don't pay attention to any of those rules. They use the tabulators, and we try to get them to stop. We say, listen, you're not following your own laws. What's going on here? They don't seem to care. What is the election system? Is it electronic voting systems? Is it paper ballot with tabulators? How do they count votes in South Carolina?
They have voting machines that they use in South Carolina. Quite unfortunately, there are a number of people that I know that are trying to pass I believe it's the Gold Standard Election Act for South Carolina, something along those lines, where they want to have it all hand counted ballots, all paper ballots, full integrity, poll watchers of both parties, making sure that all of the things are being counted properly. And the only people that are even pushing for anything even remotely like this is the South Carolina Freedom Caucus. That's the only group of people out of all of the Republicans, of the 60 plus Republicans in South Carolina's legislature. There's only like 20 or 30 of them that are even trying to get stuff like that passed. But that's not really as much to me the biggest issue, at least for South Carolina with the voting machines. The bigger issue is the fact that a lot of the way that the state party actually tries to pre-select the candidate they want to win and drive everybody else out. That is way more of an election rigging than what they're able to do with the voting machines, at least here in South Carolina.
How many people are in your race?
Too many. We got 11 people, including myself, just in the Republican primary.
Really?
10 since one of them dropped out, but he's still officially on the ballot. Yes.
Wow. And are you guys having public debates, or is everybody showing up for these debates?
For the most part, most people are showing up to the debates. They're candidate forums where you get asked a question, you can't really respond to each other. It's not quite a debate, but it's almost a debate. And so people are showing up. But the bigger issue is that one of my opponents, a sitting state house member, the entire party apparatus has fully backed him. He's got the support from other legislators, from the various county chairmen, the county parties where they're promoting him. There was even a scandal where he was using his state house funds and his state government information to help promote his campaign and get people to donate to him, and using that information, which is illegal. And so there's all this like little corruption that's going on, right? Like in the Beaufort County Republican Party kicked me out of the party because I called them out on the fact that a number of their membership, of the leadership of the Beaufort County Party, left and began to work on this person's campaign. So they left to go and work for the state house member's campaign, and I've been told, I have not confirmed this information, but I have been told by people who know that he was actually handed free voter and donor registration lists by the people in office, and was able to also get a hold of a lot more information because of it. Again, I have not been able to confirm this information, so don't 100% say for sure that it is happening, but it's very concerning to me that people are even telling me this, and that there are all these other scandals that are happening. And so it's like that level of like unified pressure. That's exactly how people like Vivek Ramaswamy won.
Right.
That is how all of these different things are happening. And so you just have to shout louder. You have to have the grassroots, and you have to have the action. And that's the way you can overcome that.
Do you have AI data center conversations going on in South Carolina, or is that something you guys don't have to deal with yet?
We haven't had to deal with it too much. We've discussed it a little bit. There are like some data centers that are being proposed and built, but it hasn't really come to the forefront of the debate yet. Regardless, I'm completely opposed to building data centers in this state in its entirety. We have thousands of square miles of empty land out in the Midwest that nobody lives in. So if you really have to have a data center, build it out there where it would actually create jobs, where it would help develop an ecosystem. But you build it here, you're just going to drive up the prices of everything. Power prices are going to go up. There's not the infrastructure. And South Carolina is already the fastest growing state in the entire country. We have per capita. We have the highest growth per capita out of any state. And so when you have this level of growth already, the infrastructure is failing. The roads are not being maintained. There's not enough money for these basic projects. The water quality is getting worse. To have all that already happening and then add in a major data center, we are not prepared for it. We need to fix our problems first, and then maybe 20 years from now, consider a data center. But I would still be a no vote in that case.
Gotcha. Got just one more question for you, because I'm just curious. Donald Trump seems to be in line with Lindsey Graham, and I met Lindsey Graham at a fundraiser in St. Louis one time. He was stumping for Josh Hawley, and I said when I met him, even back then, this is when he was really popular. This is when he said, "I hope you guys don't get power." He pointed over to it was when the Supreme Court Judge Kavanaugh, and he said, "You guys want power? I hope you never get it." You know, that kind of thing. It made him very popular amongst conservatives. And when I met him, he's very tiny. Number one. I think he would probably come up to your navel. And then he said, when I met him, he wouldn't look me in the eye, shook my hand, but kind of just dismissed me when we were looking at him, and a very soft, gentlemanly handshake, kind of like a female, right? And I don't mean to, I'm not trying to be mean to my female listeners. I'm just saying very feminine. And I just remember it did make a very good impression on me. What is your take? And I shouldn't even say, what is your take? What is the take of the citizenry? It's hard for me to believe that Lindsey Graham is popular. I saw Donald Trump trying to stump for him where everybody was booing one time. This is why I always question the elections. I do not see Lindsey Graham as being a very likable figure, but he keeps winning, and I don't understand how the guy wins. What's your take on Lindsey Graham? And what's the other guy down there? Tim Scott, is he still going?
Yeah, you got a lot of people that are still going, still running. My view of it is that Lindsey Graham, he's exactly what you just described. I've met him, I think, twice at various Republican events, and I've got the very same impression every time. One of those times to try to confront him on H-1B visas. Yeah. And the second the word H-1B came out of my mouth and I was in, suit and tie, official candidate and everything, he completely turned and almost like jogged away so he wouldn't have to talk to me. And then his 2 security teams stepped in front and like blocked me when just a second previously I was taking a picture with him and shaking his hand. Like that. Just bam.
Yeah.
He's pretty short. I'm 6'6". He comes up to like my chest area level, maybe a little shorter. He is not popular. People don't like him. But the problem is that the average voter is not super well informed. The average voter is going out there and has a job, has a family, is trying to provide for their kids. They have maybe 1 or 2 hobbies that they actually are able to go out and do. Unlike you and I, we're very invested in politics. We know about the terrible things that he supported. The average person does not. And so the biggest thing that matters when it comes to getting elected is, do people know your name?
Yeah.
That is the biggest thing. Are you noticed? Have you gotten people's attention? And he is supported by a lot of big organizations, a lot of big companies, and he has millions of dollars of funding to just push out advertising. Look at me, I am such a great candidate, vote Lindsey Graham. And so if you're that voter that has been working hard all week, all year, just trying to get provided for your family, and the only name that you have heard is Lindsey Graham, you're voting Lindsey Graham.
Yeah.
So
are you getting any kind of, well, if I were you, and I'm just thinking out loud, if I were you, I would go to people who kind of are like-minded, that have a public presence, like a Thomas Massey or a Marjorie Taylor Greene. Have you reached out to these people and said, listen, I'm kind of on the same page with what you're believing. Can I get an endorsement from you? Because that would give you name recognition. If Thomas Massey comes to South Carolina and does a speaking engagement with you, immediately you have, you know what I mean? You have some name credibility. Have you tried to get that done? Have you had any response from some of these people that are on your side of the fence?
Well, yeah, no, I actually reached out to both Marjorie and to Thomas Massey, to both of the representatives. But I mean, they're getting so many thousands of requests on a daily basis and so many emails and messages. I'd be very surprised if they ended up getting it. But yes, no, it'd be absolutely amazing. I fully intend on being a part of the Freedom Caucus, Restore Caucus, and getting out there and fighting for America. And I greatly respect everything that Thomas Massey has been doing in Congress. So yes, I would absolutely like to connect with him and help to promote a lot of the same things that he's doing there.
Good. Okay. And then last thing, how do people find you? If they want to donate to you, if they want to follow your, I'm going to follow your campaign. And I'm trying to get Thomas Massey on the show. You know, we're just starting out. I came from the radio, had an audience in the radio. Right in the middle of a show, I was getting a little hot, and the station ownership shut me down, and I resigned right away. So my entire audience is trying to figure out where I'm at. You know, I'm just getting ready to roll again on social media. But how do people find you? If I can get these people on the show, if I can get people that are like-minded, I'll drive them to your campaign, and hopefully you can get some of these people to stand up for you. That would be I think the best way to get name recognition is some of these people that already have it, that are like-minded, to endorse you, and then all of a sudden you're off and running. So how do people find you in the short term if they want to donate to your campaign?
Absolutely. The easiest way to do it is go to votetylersc.com. VOTETYLERSC.com. SC is in South Carolina. And then there's a little donate button. You see it right there. Donate now. Click that. It'll take you to my Anodot page, and you can donate from there. And that is the easiest, best way you can help support. $10 will get 2 yard signs to be able to put out in the yard. $100 will be able to buy a whole stack of 1,000 flyers to hand out to people. So even these small numbers make a huge, huge difference. I don't have the hundreds of thousands of dollars of some of my opponents, or the $3 million of one of my opponents. And so even the smallest amount makes a massive difference for getting name recognition, for getting the word out there, and for helping to hold events. And so again, it is votetylersc.com. Click the donate link, and that is the best way you can help support the campaign. I'm also on basically all social media. My biggest following in social media is on X. And so yeah, just come out, check me out, see what I have to say. And if you believe in the things that I am saying, and you want a fighter who will try to fix the problems and fight the system that causes it, please donate. Even $10 really helps. Thank
Amen.
you.
Tyler Dykes, Marine, business owner, spent 5.5 months in prison for J6, which, you know, I was there. I saw what went down there. It's crazy that people spend time in prison for what I think the president invited us to do, to go down there. And then you get caught up in the whole thing. You don't hurt anybody. You don't do anything dangerous. And all of a sudden you're spending time in prison. I thought it was a travesty of American justice. Tyler Dykes, I wish you very well, my friend. I'll be in touch with you quite soon. if we can, we were talking about it with Isaiah. We might get out to a couple of campaign rallies of people that are like-minded. Talk to you, clip it up. We'll clip up this. We'll try to get out onto social media. Have some of our friends try to push it out a little bit further for you. You got it, my man. Enjoy your day, and I appreciate your service to this country.
Thank you, Rob. God bless.
God bless you. All right.